John, let's talk a little more about your experiences. If you could, I know that there's a long story, but maybe we could hear at least a little of it today about the David. Tell us a little about David, because he did some really good things before we lost him, and I'd love to hear about it.
David Feeling was from Santa Barbara, California. He was our squad leader, our first squad leader. He was one of those guys you can't stand when you meet him because he's handsome, he's funny, he's courageous, he's just intelligent, he's just everything you want to be, but you're not. But luckily, he was my squad leader, and I can't tell you how many times he really kind of saved our lives. But one of his greatest attributes, and if not his greatest attribute, was his compassion. He was doing a one-man goodwill tour through Vietnam. And every time we came into a village, he would invariably be getting boxes sent from his parents back home in Santa Barbara. And they'd be full of clothing. So I think it was late. It was in the middle of July, and he got a couple of boxes of clothing. We were down by a village by the ocean, and he gathered all the Vietnamese kids around, and he gave out pieces of clothing. And it turns out that it's almost miraculous, but there was like 30 kids, and he had 30 pieces of clothing. So he put the clothing on the different children. They lined up to get it. And then being from California and being kind of a beach guy, he took off down to the ocean, the South China Sea. He stripped down to his shorts, and he was running down to the ocean. I noticed the kids chasing him down. He looked like the Pied Piper. 30 kids chasing him down to the beach, and I noticed that most of them, if not all, had one piece of clothing.
Wow.
The piece that he had just given them. There's some girls running with just a skirt, and some boys just a T-shirt. Some kids just a pair of undershorts. And they're running and they're jumping in the water, having a grand old time. I'm saying, we're in the middle of a war zone, but this is a very important moment. So myself and a few of David's close friends stripped down to our shorts and ran down. We had a wonderful time. And one thing about Vietnam that I don't think is taking place in Iraq and Afghanistan is that when you were with the Vietnamese children, never was there an occasion where the enemy would shoot at you. And we all knew we were safe, and I had a great time. We all had a great time. Unfortunately, as it is in wartime, within a few days, he was promoted to squad leader, from squad leader to platoon leader, but in another platoon. And within a few weeks of that, he was killed by a sniper. And that sent our platoon into the darkest part of our time in Vietnam.
Wow. Oh. John, I wish we could just do like a 3-hour special where you just talk about your story.
Well, there is there is a second part of the story that it's about his legacy.
Hold that one.
I can't tell it now.
Yeah, hold that one. Maybe we'll have time afterwards, because I don't want to. There's something else that we need to bring up here, which is that you have some gigs coming up, because I have a feeling people are going to want to see you. Now, first of all, there's the Catbird on
June 9th.
But before that, next weekend, you're going to be
on the
getting
train.
Involved on the train. Yeah, do you want to mention that? And then again,
you know who the sponsor? I keep forgetting the sponsor.
Well, it's Greg Brassow over at Veterans Voice Radio, and it's the Cape Flyer train, and that's the train that runs during the summertime along the Cape, and they donate, I believe, the use of the train to bring veterans, organized by Veterans Voice Radio, to bring them down to an event, Troops in the Spotlight, down in Hyannis. And
it's a great event. This is my third or fourth time.
But what do you guys do? You're singer-songwriters.
My brother Dan and I get on the train and entertain the troops. He knows my brother Dan's a mastermind of old 50s songs that people just love, You're My Sunshine, Back in the Saddle Again,
sure.
all kinds of stuff.
And they have several people performing on the train.
There will be myself and Danny and several others. I don't know exactly the names of the other guys.
They're good, though.
But we'll be moved from train to train as the train goes down to His Highness, right?
Yeah, they start out at 8 a.m. in Boston, then they hit Braintree, Brockton, Wareham, and Bourne. And this is the 14th annual time they end up at the 14th annual Cape Cod Cares for Troops. This is Troops in the Spotlight.
And that's an incredible time.
The event
really
down
is.
there. And by the way, we should stop and say, for veterans and their guests, correct? Their families, excuse me, it is free for you to take the train down. But the train itself ends up being part of the event because of the music and the camaraderie, and it's an incredible experience. But once you get down there, they do a special celebration and support and
tribute
recognition
for the veterans,
yes.
all veterans, you know.
And a special one for Vietnam vets.
Yes,
long overdue.
And I got to stop taking. They give quilts.
Yeah.
And I think I'm taking one more than I should, so I'm not going to take a quilt this year.
Well, take a quilt and bring it, and we'll hang it up and display it here.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
You're entitled to your quilt.
Beautiful quilts.
That's wonderful.
It's a great time. The food, there's hot dogs.
Free food.
If you serve hot dogs anywhere in Massachusetts, I will go there.
They have free food. Oftentimes they have some of the military vehicles and antique cars on display.
They do.
It's a really great event. The event actually goes Sunday and Monday part of the day, and they keep people on watch the whole time. Yeah. So if you want to know more about that, go to Veterans Voice Radio. Remember, Veterans Voice Radio is on Thursday nights on, I believe, 7 o'clock on WATD. And you can go to their Facebook page and look it up. You can also go to just look up Troops in the Spotlight. I'll try to post some of that a little later on my page.